All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Pop Marketing Podcast. I am still Joe Cox, your host here on our podcast that talks about the intersection of pop marketing and real pop culture and brand marketing. And I'm super just psyched to have our guest here, Will Campbell, the co-founder, CEO of Quantity and Associates, otherwise Q&A. Is that right? Is that right, Will?
Right?
I like
Yeah.
that. I like that Q&A. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the full name, but it worked out pretty well with that Q&A. It's pretty cool. So hey, let's talk a little bit about you. I'm gonna pump you up a little bit because nobody ever wants to do that themselves. But like, Will comes from, you know, a pretty deep background of a ton of different kinds of work from Lionsgate, NBC, Sony, Honda, Google, Facebook, 40 Under 40. Los Angeles, you're pretty known. It looks like there's a lot of you guys, the work that you guys do really kind of stands out, right? Like a lot of it is utilizing a lot of celebrities that everybody knows that I'm looking forward to talking about with you. And I mean, yeah, I can't wait to have some discussions about like the state of the brand agency world with you. How you doing today?
I'm good, Joe. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Definitely enjoy talking about all this stuff, and congratulations with what you're doing at Pop Marketer. Happy to be here.
Well, let's go into this. Like I was telling you before, we have, a great mix of marketers, from people that have been out and starting their career on the brand side to people that have been around the agency world for a while. But one thing that everybody's always interested in is origin story, like how do you get to where you are? Kind of give us your like rundown of how you entered the agency world. And then not only that, but jumping into a space where you're starting your own and running your own here in 2023.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of early on, typical went to college, studied business, all those things. But my passion was really in entertainment and working in entertainment and just the excitement around the world. And so early on, I got a role working with a producer in a production company, and my job was just kind of helping to package different entertainment projects, things like putting CD labels on CDs and making what they called at the time electronic press kits. And I didn't quite know it, but at the time it was marketing. And it was how could you pitch or sell an artist, a project, a film. And so for me, it was just always fun to find new and creative ways to package these things. And this was early in the 2000s. And so this was kind of like pre MySpace. You probably got listeners saying, "What is MySpace?"
Yeah,
But
pre MySpace. Was
this
there?
this is kind of when the internet started to become much more consumer and public friendly. And so there was one particular project that we worked on where we pulled together all these assets, the content, the behind the scenes photos, the music, the interviews, and we put it onto a website. And that hadn't really been done before. This project turned out to be Cheetah Girls, which was a huge Disney hit. And it was a really interesting model of kind of bringing entertainment and technology and content and marketing together into one thing. And as a result of that, we felt like there was a really breakthrough opportunity there. Now, the people I was working with at the time were music folks, and they were having a lot of success in music and film and television. So um, this idea of marketing these things was something that the people that I was working with was sort of like referring to me. So as other people in the music business were hitting them up saying, "Hey, can you help us market a project like that?" They were referring them to me. And so the next phase for myself and my partner, who did all the tech at the time, was doing a lot of entertainment marketing. So we were working with music artists like Pussycat Dolls and record companies like Interscope and producers like Rodney Jerkins. And we were doing all of this marketing in the entertainment world. Fast forward, the traditional advertising world started to turn its eyes onto some of these same things, technology, entertainment, and started to want to do things that were like more authentic, more culturally resonant. And we had, a few years ahead of the game on this. And so we were prime positioned to start working with consumer brands to help them understand this intersection of technology, culture, marketing, entertainment. And that kind of became our way in. And so that's really what got the agency off to its start. Is kind of owning that space early on. And since then, as you mentioned, we've had the opportunity to work with large entertainment clients like Kevin Hart to some of the top Fortune, 100 clients like Honda and Target and others. So that's the background. Love it every day. Still wake up with the same passion, and just looking forward to doing more of that.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's just so at the heart of the reason I started, pop marketing was seeing those people like yourselves that saw the other side of things of entertainment. And there's others too, like the toy industry or sneaker culture industry or whatever it is, and started in those spaces and kind of got their kind of the superpower that they brought over to the brand marketing side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really at the heart of finding those things as entertainment's done, that pop culture has been doing, and kind of surfing off of that and learning how to apply that when it comes to your advertising and marketing
Mm-hmm.
and representing a brand, especially on that authentic side. It's something we've always had. Like, you'd hand Britney Spears $400 million and give her Pepsi, and it's nothing new.
Right.
But I think that authenticity you're talking about is something that has become more and more like demanded
That's right.
by the consumer. Now, here's the question for you. How important is it? Because I struggle with this too, and I'm bending where I was going to go with this. I was going to ask more on Q&A, but I think this goes in perfect. How much do you think relationships matter when it comes to bringing in ideas when somebody has an idea with Kevin Hart or somebody has an idea, Steve Harvey, something like how much do relationships inside the industry uh, help bring those ideas to life? How needed are those relationships?
I mean, relationships always matter. Um, and so whether it's a new relationship or an old relationship, they're always important. They're always valuable. And, whether you're trying to negotiate with a talent, whether you're trying to pitch an idea, um, relationships matter because oftentimes what they reflect is trust. And, in the absence of a relationship, things can just be transactional. And
That's
for
right.
a lot of the talent that I work with or have had the opportunity to work with, they're not uber transactional. They want to know that there's more meaning behind it. Now, on the flip side, when you talk about relationships as far as it relates to gaining access, right?
Mhm.
I've got this great, I'm a creator, and I just know if Kevin Hart saw what I had to offer, he'd, bring me
Yeah.
into the fold. Well, the beauty of it is that the technology has given us a lot more access. And so, for instance, when we partnered with Kevin Hart to create the Laugh Out Loud network, it was geared around identifying talent that's out there, not through the traditional means. So you had all of these different creators and comedians and writers that now somebody like Kevin was saying, "Hey, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you got. I want to know, what your shtick is. I want to hear your sketches, those kind of things." So technology has also given folks a lot of access for a way to start building a relationship. And so, I think there's two sides of the coin where yes, relationships matter, but at the same time, in this world, anybody can see your stuff and be drawn to it. And we've seen those successes time and time again.
Love it because I agree. I agree. It's if it's a good idea, if it's a good like you're a creator and you got a good idea and you have a thing, you are more likely now to be able to be like get out there and ask, get out there and
Yeah.
find it. Like go online. I mean, Twitter to me even 10 years ago brought that to life, right?
Yeah.
Like you would be amazed if you just reach out. You would be amazed on how much that would be likely to happen versus 10 years before that, where you're having to get through 20 doors to be
Yeah.
able to get to that conversation, as well as that ability to start a groundswell on YouTube or start a groundswell and start your own, prove that people like the stuff that you like before you take it to somebody. But at the other end of it, I do agree when it comes to agency work, a lot of times I've seen a lot of amazing ideas that couldn't get off the ground because the relationships weren't there.
Yeah.
Right. Then it became transactional. And then that is who has the most money to be able to add to that. And I've rarely seen the transactional pieces, highly transactional, turn into amazing work.
I agree.
It's tough just because I'm with you. It's like it's the best when both parties have something in the action, and somebody is, not doing it just for that paycheck, but doing it
Yeah.
because they either believe in it or they fall in love with the idea or they see the relationship going further, right, than
Yeah.
just,
That's right.
hey, I need you for fall campaign, right,
That's right.
like, and then we're done. So um yeah, that's great. When you bring in technology, and I really love that melding of not only like advertising and entertainment, but bringing in technology to that too. And I do agree that technology has had a huge part in access and what we have the ability to do. Where do you see technology playing? Do you see technology playing that role in fandoms and in like being able to talk directly to that consumer? How are you doing? How are you seeing technology with this mix? Just for Q&A, like how are you using it? Is there any work that you can kind of write off your head that says, yeah, this is how this
Yeah. I
works?
mean, one of the things that I think technology is doing in a really powerful way is enabling community building. And whether these communities are online or offline or a combination, technology allows and enables the communication and the passion and the similar interests to gel. And so you've got these creators. And I think that the creator economy has proven to be very, very real. Um, and then I think you're seeing this shift where these creators are creating these communities. And so, whether it's a community of people who together celebrate, you know, um, fitness and becoming healthier, or communities of people who celebrate, you know, art and design, or whatever the interest is, technology is enabling them to connect, to share, and to kind of galvanize their mission. And I think that's huge. And I think that's a huge opportunity for brands to become aligned with these communities and understand this shift from the creator economy to the community economy. And so I think that that's a huge thing from a technology perspective. I think the second thing that technology does in a creative space like marketing and advertising is pushes the tools to the limits by which you can create. I think about things right now like AI and what creators are doing in being empowered by these tools and what's possible. Now, of course, there's issues to address and privacy and security and any number of things, but nonetheless, innovation will always be a huge fabric of creativity. And so I think technology just plays a huge role there.
When it comes to the community side of things, I couldn't agree more. Where do you see we're starting to get that idea of moving from that creator to the online communities? We come from that world of the big celeb, the big one, right? Like, and that still works. Like, I don't think that goes away, right?
Right.
Like, it doesn't go away. And for the right, when you're trying to do the right thing for your brand, it's the right thing to do. But how do you see brands getting towards that? Or maybe it's just how you all have tackled that, of understanding like the difference between, all right, well, this works really well for kind of a big name, big splash, and we go towards that name, versus let's really get the army up and find these new creators. Let's find these people that have audiences that we maybe never even watched.
Hmm.
Like me in my 40s, I'm starting to get to that point where I'm like, I've never even seen this person. They got like a line out the door of people
Right.
that love them, and you just got to kind of get used to it. How have you all tackled that between those two things? Are you use them in concert together, or is there times when utilizing a group of creators around something works better than that big giant name?
Yeah, I mean, we've done both. We've worked with the top, A-list and double A-list celebrities, and we've also worked with some of these like really, valuable, connected creators in their communities. Oftentimes, it centers on what's the idea,
Mm-hmm.
because tapping this celebrity or that celebrity is not an idea, you know and so you've got to have an idea that when you're working on behalf of a brand, you got to have an idea that A is authentic to the brand and it can deliver on the brand's goals, but B is compelling. Today's um, consumers, like, they're not impressed by celebrity alone
Yeah.
because it's all around them. And in fact, it can go really, really bad. And I won't get into it today, but there's a lot of examples of like celebrity backfiring because it's just for celebrity's sake and it doesn't feel authentic, or, at worst, it's, even worse, it's like contrived and almost like insulting to the consumer, that you thought, they were going to go for that. So celebrity alone doesn't do it. You still have to have an idea. You still have to have an authentic connection. It still has to make sense. It still has to be relevant. So I think that's important. And then, we have a lot of clients that are really interested in connecting with the Gen Z audience. And I think that's where these spaces and the topics and the communities that you're choosing to partner with really, really matter, because they really, really care. And it's really about how you're going deeper. For instance, we're working in the space of mindfulness and wellness, just because from a need perspective and from an interest perspective, it's really fundamental to where we are right now. And so we're working with groups of wellness creators, people that are teaching, yoga and breath work and meditation and these things, just because there's an important interest in that space. And so building those communities and connecting with those communities is something that we find really, really important right now. And so that's just one example of kind of how we're thinking about working with communities.
Yeah, and you also said that it's something that you feel like is important in general to the world, right? Like that's the kind of work that you want to do at Q&A. It's like the things like let's push to those. And I did want to bring up, I think that is a huge trend in the last three or so years, which has been mental health. I mean,
Yeah.
having conversations of things that were swept under the rug when I was moving up in my career just weren't discussed. Yeah, especially in the world of entertainment
Yeah.
and agency, right? And advertising. These are places where you got to work really hard to get to where you're at. There's a big list of people that would love to be working in those places, and you tend to burn fast. What do you see going on in your world and in the general world out there in that blend of entertainment and advertising when it comes to agency leadership and understanding of mental health and burnout and keeping that awesome talent
Yeah.
uh, you know to be awesome, continuing not and keeping them out of harm's way of harming themselves too. Like what do you see it as where do you see it as a co-founder and CEO of an agency yourself?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's important, and that's why we're doing so much work on the space. I mean, I think we start with this, like just to go back. When you think about things like entertainment, there are a handful of what I call domains that have that level of interest and influence. And, these are things like sports. Sports has massive global interest and influence. Things like music, massive global influence and interest. And so you have these domains that have that kind of impact. Well, I believe that wellness will be one of those. Now, let's not mistake it. Mindfulness and wellness are areas of practice that date back centuries. So this isn't
Sure.
new, right? These date back centuries. And in fact, they've been quite relevant in recent decades, right?
Yeah.
But now where we are, they've sort of got this new level of penetration on the world, right? Largely because of the pandemic and largely because of social media and just the amount of information that's going into our brains every day. This is becoming hugely topical and something that we really have to focus on and pay attention to. So there's sort of an awakening around the importance of addressing mental health. And so we created a platform called True Voice, which is an app. Now, the thing that I find is there's a lot of tools that are out there, and the fact that wellness is becoming, trendy to a certain degree. There's a lot of commercialization and capitalization around the space. And so we sought out to create something that kind of filled in the voids. So we created True Voice. It's an app and a network that offers mindfulness, health, and wellness tools so that people can really access self care. And it's really through a lens of kind of today's diverse culture. And it also very much has an approach that sort of reaches out to young people who definitely are among those who need it most. So we're creating that as a business in general that does a few things as far as I'm concerned. One, to your point, it's just kind of the right thing to do in culture. And at Quanacy, our mission is to push culture in the right direction. So we're able to use technology, design, strategy, all the things that we're good at to create something that can push culture in the right direction. That's one. Two, as we are here to serve our clients and the brands that we work with, we're giving them avenues and this expertise that we have in the space of health and wellness so that they can better achieve their goals against the backdrop of what's happening in terms of wellness and culture. And then three, to your other point, as an agency leader, it's the right thing to do for our own teams and to have availability to our teams to be able to build their own practices so that they can address or have the option to address some of the realities that face us when it comes to stress, anxiety, burnout, any number of those things that you kind of mentioned. So it's got, multiple advantages for us that are on the spectrum of the right thing to do, as well as really understanding like where culture is headed and how we can help our brands and clients.
Yeah. Do you find that that's where you're looking? You are looking as a leader and as a founder of the agency, because I know the balance, right? You normally have certain projects that you really kind of push that are important to the agency, right? Like things to push out that is not your traditional client work, but only so much, and it gets tough to make those balances. When you as a leader are looking towards what do we put our bets on, is that you're saying that's that balance you're looking for? You're looking at something that is important internally, that'll get people excited and is important culturally, as well as something that you will be able to create, make an impact, and also put in front of clients, I assume, to say, hey, we believe in this. When
Yeah.
we're telling you this, we're not just saying it. We like put it on the table. Like we're doing it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're investing in it and it's important, and it's our job to be
Yeah.
at the front of what's happening
That's
in culture. And it's our job to know what's next on behalf of our clients. And it's great that we can provide thought leadership and research that says, hey, here's the top 10 trends for 2024. That's one thing, but it's another thing to become experts on those
that's right.
things. And for us to now be like, we've hired a therapist who's our head of wellness. We've built infrastructure around True Voice. And so for us to have deep strategic knowledge in the space is more advantageous than to, just say, hey, here's the next top trends for 2024. Yes, we still do those things.
Yeah.
But to your point, this is where we've made a significant bet and investments over the recent years to really position ourselves as leaders in the space, and that's what we've been able to do with True Voice.
Yeah. I mean, it totally makes sense. And it's really, there's one thing about talk, and we all know it's not, again, thought leadership is something that is important to our business, and it is important that we get it out there and get the conversation going on things. But the way we learn and the way is deep. The deep knowledge is going to come from doing it.
Hmm.
And a lot of times we are going to be ahead of our clients.
That's right.
We are, because we know the consumer better than I mean, that's our job. Their job is to know their business
That's right.
better than us. We know our consumer, and in order to do that, we're going to have to take some bets and do some stuff that maybe the clients aren't there yet, right? So that when they are, we have that where they can trust us. We're not doing it for the first time,
That's right.
because we've all been there when we're like, hey, this idea is nuts, but it's tough to do it with a Fortune 100 client, when you're trying to build that trust of, can we pull this thing,
Yeah.
can we pull this off, and building that internally with your own product is really is really smart. What is the differences in building an app? I mean, is that something you all are used to? Building something like a platform, right? The True Voice platform. What I think is really interesting, and I'm just curious what has been learnings as you guys have been building that own platform and finding an audience for it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what's interesting. I mean, I think for us, the beauty of it is that, you know, you remember we started in technology. So the first work we were doing was building content based websites before they were really like the cool thing to do.
So you were tech at core. You were digital at core, and at I would say the DNA, right? Like the
That's right.
DNA was that. And if you look at a lot of these, we have a VML here in our town, which is kind of there, and they started. I was there when way back in the day. They were not small digital
Yeah.
shop, but their brains were there. Their DNA was there, and I really feel that is where that future, that's why those agencies are now in lead, because they had that understanding quick.
Yeah.
So
That's
you
right.
guys started on tech side.
Yeah. So for us, culture and technology were sort of like
Yeah.
the ingredients from day one.
Yeah.
Um, and in some senses, even before we knew what to call it, that's what we were doing very, very early on. So we've built a ton of products and businesses and apps, and so from building apps for Acura and their leasing programs to building apps for Captain Hart's Laugh Out Loud network to many others. We've had a ton of experience in building, sophisticated apps and technology. And so for here, with the True Voice situation, it's like, yeah, we're continuing to innovate and do more. But, unlike many agencies, we have in-house engineers. In fact, my co-founder is our chief product officer. So tech is a part of who we are. So building the app came really natural to us. What was a little bit different is it's different when you start doing your own marketing for your own product and trying to build your own audience, and now you're sort of having to kind of like follow the advice that you give to your clients.
I mean, it's real. That is the realest,
Yeah,
and it is harder than it. I mean, even from the top, we because it is a lot. Yeah, it is. It's tough. What are they, cobblers? The cobbler's kids' shoes,
yeah,
type of
yeah. The
thing,
college
right?
kid
Like,
can go without
yeah,
shoes. Yeah,
yeah. Like, so, I get it, and it's like, oh, this is what we tell clients to do every day. So, you know,
yep.
we got to
So you
start
have to
doing it.
remind yourself, to stay with it and stick to the keys of building community. But fortunately, we've had some really great successes, and True Voice continues to thrive, even though we're still in our early stages. It's the response has been amazing, and it's helping people. So we're excited about it.
I love it. Yeah, and I'll make sure to put a link to in the show notes for that, so we can check it out.
Yeah.
Uh, Now I'm just curious. I mean, like Laugh Out Loud Network, right? Like, I mean, I'm a cold plunge guy who just got into the pain of ice baths, which is not new, by the way. I mean, like, apart from Joe Rogan community, this athletes have been jumping inside ice baths for a long time. But I'm just super curious. on that experience of launching a network like that. And I know your background in that entertainment space, but launching a network, in modern time, and a network like that based on a lot of writers and comedians and amazing like pieces, like two people having an interview inside of an ice bath. Like, I don't even know how you do it. It's the worst part of my day. I'll kid you not. Like, jumping in that thing and to carry on a conversation, it's just a genius. Like, there's some really genius stuff inside of that. How much was it? When did you come into that? Whenever that network was launching, how did you all come into it? Was everything kind of already said and done on the creative ideas and how those things would go out, and you were like building the vessel and the marketing for it, or was it more integrated?
No, it was definitely a partnership and more integrated. I mean, I would say this. I think in modern marketing, there are two people that fundamentally have understood celebrity marketing
Yeah,
and invented it. And those two people are Paris Hilton and Kevin Hart. And the thing about those two is they were just incredibly digitally intelligent around how the internet worked.
mm-hmm.
And so with Kevin had already been doing like massive marketing. I remember he put out a film, and the number one sales that smashed the box office were a result of his social media marketing. And so he was crushing these box offices by being on the internet and going live from set and engaging cast. And he had sort of like reinvented the space. And so we got to a point where we were having a conversation. We had done a lot of marketing work with Kevin, promoting this, promoting that, and his team. And we got to a point where we sat down with Kevin. We said, hey, there's a bigger business opportunity. And as his digital partners, we sort of outlined this concept of building a network, because Kevin had come to us and said, he's like, I want to do something different. I want to create opportunities for other comedians. What can we do? And so we came up with this idea. And I remember sitting with Kevin the day he said, we presented the idea of the Laugh Out Loud Network. And he said, that's a big swing. And he was excited, and we said, let's do it. So we created it together. He invested in it. We partnered with him on it. We made it happen. And that was, just a handful of years ago. And if you look at it today, Kevin's Heartbeat outfit just did this massive, $100 million raise, with Laugh Out Loud being one of the properties. And inside of that, we've been able to work with numerous brands, one of them being Old Spice, as you know, and the Cold as Bald show, which has
Yep.
seen over 1 billion views on YouTube. And so it's just been an incredible opportunity, again, bringing culture, entertainment, technology together. And so it's kind of part of what we've been able to fortunately really understand well over the past, 15 years that we've been doing this.
Yeah, it's your sweet spot, and it's like that kind of. I think to be able to prove it, and nobody works harder on the planet than that man. Like,
No.
there's. I mean, I don't think anybody even gets you even more so than me. But just from an outsider looking in, Kevin Hart, no one's going to outwork him. It's insane, and I really agree. And when you bring up Paris, I think a lot of people don't give that credit a lot. That was a really interesting call out, and I couldn't agree with you more
Yeah.
in how Paris continues to, from the background, more not so like, taking the fame that she did build in the first of that reality world, and then moving that into kind of moving the pieces around, especially in that digital social world, and understanding how those things work better than anybody else. And now you've got from their shoulder, really, I think it's incredibly interesting how people, celebrities are taking now to brand. So celebrities are acting as brands and understanding the power that celebrity can push if they do it. So you have The Rock, you have Ryan Reynolds is a master.
Yeah,
They
sure.
get it. They are understanding what that what that celebrity means and what that impact that they bring means in a social world.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
incredible time to be alive. I feel like I'm living in the future. It's
Yeah,
great, and to be able to be a part of a project like that is crazy. I'd say those interviews and that kind of shtick on that and Hot Ones are like to me the ones that come into my mind of just like, oh,
yeah.
you got the perfect thing built for the internet, not
That
for
one is
TV,
fun to watch. Yeah,
not for TV, but the perfect kind of setup that works on that that telephone screen.
yeah.
Um, so hey, um, before I let you go, let's talk a little. I just would love to hear what you're thinking as we're kind of moving out of 2023, moving into 2024. What are you excited about? What are you talking to brands about? Kind of prepare for what's going to come to us in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, one, I can't kind of emphasize enough the role of wellness. And there's not an industry or a category that it won't affect. And so deepening your story as a brand, deepening your relationship, deepening your position and your connectivity to wellness is paramount. So I think that's one thing we're really going to see a lot more of. Two is this notion of, tell me how you really feel. I think that brands really finding their soul and being able to communicate it with authenticity is going to be huge. There's so much going on in the world that consumers are in a mindset of what can I believe? What can I grab onto? What can I take at face value and not question? That trust is becoming such an incredible currency. So I think brands being able to find a way to operate and engage on that level is really really key. And then third, I think the technology experience that consumers can engage with. And so, we're starting to see consumers that sort of have technology that is wrapped around them instead of the opposite. What do I mean by that? If you look at partners, if you look at companies like Apple, now it's like I can, um, get rid of this laptop, get my next laptop, but guess what? All my stuff is still there. All my
Yeah.
preferences are there. I can switch my phone, new this, new that, and my experience has only gotten better. I don't have to start over. There are some really amazing things that Honda's doing in the same world where, as we're moving to this path of electrification and a focus on sustainability, there's, Honda is at the forefront of exploring some of, my relationship to my vehicle going beyond just this vehicle into my next vehicle into these other spaces. I think that there's just some really interesting innovations that are happening there. So the tech is an important piece, and like we talked about with AI.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those are the things. brands that are
Yeah.
doing the right thing and speaking to it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, it's hard to walk the walk. I mean, the bigger the company, and that's the necessity in 2023 and going into 2024. I feel is like you better be ready to back it up
Mhm.
and do things, not just say things. And I think we're there. I think even in the biggest companies, where we've gotten there, and it takes a bit to get off the horse of just, hey, let's just pay money and say stuff versus what are you going to do to push culture forward? What's
Yeah,
the
that's right.
actions, right? And it's a bunch of big swings, and it's also not just in the marketing department, right? So I'm sure more of your conversations have been outside of just the, you know, the CMO,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It has to be something from C suite, everyone, every part of the company
Yeah.
when it comes to wellness and stuff. But that excites me too. And man, you guys are doing such amazing work. Can't wait to follow along in 2024. Man, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with me. It was great meeting you. Where can people find you online?
Yeah. Look, we're my Instagram is one Will Campbell. So I'm easy to get there, and my LinkedIn, same thing. One Will Campbell, the number one Will Campbell. So yeah, I'm easy to find.
Great. Well, I hope you have a wonderful new year. And thanks for joining us. And everyone out there, that was another Pop Marketing Podcast. Thanks, and we will be back soon.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Will.